Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about the first Descendant and its microtransactions and how it could potentially kill the game if this gets like too big too quick, about how ridiculous the actual prices are for this game. So first and foremost, let's go in and have a look at the customize section. You can see that there's a lot of things here that you can change within your character. Most people are going to go for skins, right? That's going to be the main thing for you to go. Right, so let's go in first to the shop. Now, if you wanted to come in and get just like a little boost to your game, the premium starter package, it costs 750 of the currency that you can buy. What you get for this is 70,000 of the creeper shards, a whole bunch of mods that are legendary purple version of it. You get gold gain from just the game in general, and it lasts for 7 days. You get shards increased for 7 days. You get 1 extra equipment slot, which, you know, is not terrible. 1 consumable slot and 1 storage slot. So you increase your storage and that stuff. That's fine. You know, it happens in games. And you get 800,000 coins. Now, from what I understand, coins aren't too difficult to get, at least right now anyway. Maybe towards end game it could get a little bit harder. The gains in these kinds of things are fine, and then the mods are okay. I reckon you probably get outclassed in a few days when you're leveling up, so these will become irrelevant and useless. And the shards you spend on basically enhancing these mods. So 750 coins. Let's see how much that costs, right? So 750, you'll have to buy this 1060 caliber with 60 bonus, only 60 bonus from 1000. That's £16 in UK money, which I think is about $19. So roughly $20, £16 to just get those things that we spoke about. Pretty horrific in terms of prices. You can also buy a normal Descendant for free without having to play the game or research or do the missions or anything. So if that's your groove and that's what you want to do, you can. It's not a terrible amount of money. It's one of those things, if you just like a specific character and you just want to get a character, that's an okay microtransaction in my opinion. Some of them are heinous though when it comes to how much it costs. The battle pass, you know, it's not a terrible buy either in my opinion. It doesn't cost that much. If you're into battle passes, it's like £7, £8, $10. You know, it's the typical battle pass experience, and there is quite a lot of things to get and unlock. Like, it's not like you're just getting shafted. There's 100 slots, well, 96 slots, with a lot of things that you can get that's going to just make your game better and something to play towards while you're playing. So I think the battle pass is fine, but again, it's a battle pass. If you want to buy your ultimate Descendants, you can, and it's pretty horrendous when it comes to the cost. So here you get ultimate Lepic, you get the head skin, the body skin, the back attachment, the spawning animation, the enhancement materials that you probably need to level him up. You know, all in all, you're paying for quite a lot of things that will work, and in terms of if you have the money, it's probably worth it, but it's definitely not worth it if you're just want to play a game for fun, because that is £80, which is probably roughly $92 or something like that for one ultimate character. Now, the characters in game are going to be a little bit more difficult to unlock, but honestly, if you're willing to pay that much money for one character, you are absolutely insane. To get that same character in terms of research, let's just look at Viessa for instance, you'll have to go do all of these things, and each of these things has a whole bunch of things attached to them. So you'll have to get compound coating material, 538 of them, 1000 of that one, 79, and an ultimate blueprint. The blueprints come from the big void intercept missions, I believe. So you're gonna have to do a lot of work to get that one section done, and then you'll have to do it for all the other ones as well. So it's gonna take a while to get your ultimates, but if you're paying for it, you are insane. So let's go into Descendant skins right now, because you can look through each individual thing. So if I want to go and get a head skin for Bunny, I can do that. So I can purchase a bundle for, let's say, Purple Cat purchase bundle. That'll give me basically makeup for her face and Purple Cat hair, and that's 275 coins, which again you'll get from having to buy this one, because you can't get it with just the 251. You'll have to buy this, which is £8, 11-ish, 12-ish dollars. Definitely not worth it. if you're willing to buy multiple things for multiple characters, you could probably buy this one here and just go around and pick the things that you want for each character if you do want to spend money. But specifically for one bundle, you have to buy something that is double the cost of what you should be paying, which is this one. It's pretty heinous. Now, it's not exactly all cosmetic, but it definitely is mostly cosmetic. So if you do want to spend money and you have the money to spend, oh, go for it. Absolutely go for it. It's definitely worth spending the money on if you've got that kind of money. For most people though, it's just predatory and horrible. If you want to go, you know, play as an ultimate character, you either have to grind the game out for probably close to hundreds of hours, and then literally someone can just buy it off the bat. It's an interesting decision, but it's Nexon, and Nexon are fairly famous for their their microtransactions. But yeah, let me know what you're thinking down below. I don't think everything about these microtransactions are terrible, but for the majority of them, some of the things I didn't even go through because, you know, you can look for yourself. This is more of an opinions video and just a general look at microtransactions. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you for watching. I've been Easy. Now you guys have been awesome.
E chegou o dia.
Why the first Descendant and other Korean games have so many microtransactions. I didn't know that it took 8 minutes and 50 seconds to say the word money, but let's find out.
So, if you've been playing The First Descendant, you know, that one game with the really good storylines and plot?
Yeah.
It's a third-person co-op looter shooter that's got pretty standard mechanics for the genre, so it's a fine game.
Sure.
It's built off Unreal Engine 5, so it's a gorgeous-looking game with incredible graphics. But a lot of people are feeling pretty mixed about the microtransactions and the fact that the store is priced so high for a free-to-play game. And since the game is a looter shooter, it's only PvE, so the items...
The reason why it's priced really high is because if they didn't have it priced that way, they would have had gacha in the game instead, and you would have spent $5 20 times, but instead of that, you spend $100 once, and somehow that's better? Like this is the reason why gacha exists, is because it's easy to convince a dumb person that, oh, well, I'm not spending that much money whenever you're doing it $5 at a time.
You can purchase aren't anything that could be considered pay to win. However, you can definitely purchase...
It's like if I were to... I think that if you did a poll and you polled people on like how much money they spent in a gacha game versus how much money they think they've spent, I think that they would vastly underestimate the amount of money. But I think if you did that same poll for people that have actually just spent money in a game that doesn't have gacha, there would be a stronger like connection to the two numbers, like what they predict and what they actually spent. I feel like 100%.
Items that will help you progress through the game faster with XP boosts.
Yeah.
You're able to purchase a premium battle pass, characters, character and weapon skins, and increased inventory capacity. The in-game currency is unfortunately only attainable through buying it with real-life money.
Yeah.
You can't earn it through playing the game itself.
That's right.
However, you can grind
because
to earn
fuck
new characters,
you, that's why.
but it takes a really long time. There was a Steam review that said The First Descendant released with more real money purchasable items than actual gameplay mechanics. I know we're all...
If you count every individual microtransaction separately, I think they're right.
Pretty used to games that are free to play, usually bringing about a lot of purchasable items in the game. But I've noticed that a lot of Korean games have always had microtransactions in them. Specifically, a lot of Korean role-playing games have a ton of microtransactions. RPGs are the most common games to have microtransactions for skins, XP boosts, and whatever else you might need in them, and Korea has been utilizing this system for a lot longer than some people remember. But why? Why are so many Korean games dominated in microtransactions and oddly predatory items? Good question.
I really want to know the answer to this, because it's like, I can see why China has mobile gaming, because a lot of people spend time on public transportation. But why the fuck did they do this in Korea? Like, what is this? She's justifying microtransactions? I'm going to have a hot take. Get ready to get mad. I don't think there's anything wrong with the First Descendants microtransactions at all. And I think that in terms of on an ethical scale, it is actually quite good. There is never a point where you spend money and you don't know what you're getting. There are never things that are taken away from you. The game is made for free, and most of the things that you can get in the store are available in-game for time spent instead. And even with the different boosts in Kuiper shards or experience or weapon experience or something like that on gold, I think those are the four, all of those things are accessible in-game, and paying for them regularly functions as a subscription to the game, which is something that I would be okay with. So... and it's only a 30% boost. It's not like a 10x or something like that. So that's my honest opinion about it.
Let's dive into that. Remember MapleStory? That adorable free-to-play MMORPG that released in the US May 2005? That was created by Wizet, another Korean developer that initiated the discussion around microtransactions because its users weren't just in Korea, but also now in North America.
Yeah.
The 5 best-selling games in the United States at this time were Madden NFL 06, Pokemon Emerald, Nintendogs, Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Remember that, bro.
And Gran Turismo 4. None of these games had microtransactions, and instead they were just buy and
I wonder if this girl plays WoW. I bet she does, because that's the only one that's purple.
Full games. However, World of Warcraft was the 8th best-selling game in the US that year after it launched in late 2004. So MapleStory and World of Warcraft are arguably the same genre, so you could compare what each did to the other around the 2005 to 2006 era when no other games were introducing microtransactions like these two were. World of Warcraft launched with the requirement of needing a subscription fee to play, while MapleStory was completely free to download. And
it's an interesting approach to view the subscription to the game for WoW as a microtransaction. And I don't necessarily think that's completely wrong. I don't know how to feel about that.
Play, but allowed players to buy in-game cosmetics and enhancements with real money. MapleStory was the first real Korean game to break through to a Western audience, and thus introduced new aspects of how business could be done with gaming. MapleStory featured cosmetic items for sale, but also XP boosts, pets, inventory slots, and drop coupons, which would allow you to roll loot boxes for random items. This was the introduction of RNG and loot boxes to the gaming world that ended up taking off quite abruptly. That all started in 2005 and has just continued on since then. So microtransactions have ruled multiplayer games in Korea for quite some time. But
yeah, it's normalized, right? Because you think about it, if it started in 2005 over there, that's 19 years ago, which is insane to think about, right? So a lot of people, like in 2005, I was 15. So I would have grown up with that. If I had started playing that game, it would have been normal. Yeah, people grew up. This is how microtransactions become normalized in gaming, is that you have the middle group of people that are like between the ages of like 25 and 40. And for us, we grew up in the golden age where you went to Blockbuster, you bought the used game of Super Metroid for $28, and you went home and you played Super Metroid. Now, what happens is that those guys are getting older. Now they're 30, they're 35. They don't have as much time to play the game, and the resentment that they had towards pay to win whenever they were a kid is gone now, because most people, I think a lot of people at least, this is going to be, and I know this might upset some people for me to say this, which is why I'm really getting excited being able to say it, is that I think one of the big reasons why people don't like pay to win is because they can't afford it. And I think that most people don't actually have any principles. They only care about things in the way that they directly affect them. So whenever those people have the money to spend, then they just spend the money and they don't care about it as much anymore, because they never really cared about pay to win on a principle level. They cared a bit about it on the level that they could not pay to win. So now that they can do it, they're okay with it. And so you have the older generation that's becoming more accepting of it because they can take advantage of it. And then you have the younger generation, you know, like let's say you're a guy, you're 16 now, right? You've grown up your entire life. You've grown up with microtransactions in video games. So for you, it's completely normalized. So you have them, you know, it's like you're burning the candle at both ends. And you have like this very, very small, vanishingly small group of people that actually are against microtransactions on principle. That's what I think's happening.
Why do Korean developers choose to go the microtransaction route so aggressively? I mean, if something brought in a ton of money for you, wouldn't you stick with it? Back in 2006, Pearl Research released a games market in Korea report and revealed that microtransactions made up for at least 50% of South Korea's $1 billion online games market. That was back in 2006 when microtransactions
in 2006
only just blossoming, but Korea had already gotten its formula down. Whether or not these microtransactions bring in money from the Western audience really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They know they have their core audience down and can depend on their money being spent on in-game items. I really believe this is why Korean MMOs don't survive well in North America. Black Desert Online was fine, but people realized how grindy the game was and how predatory the microtransactions seemed, because it really felt like you had no choice but to purchase items to help you get through the game easier.
I'm gonna get you.
I'm gonna swim with you.
I'm gonna get you.
I'm gonna be your best friend. Good feelings gone.
Yeah?
Congratulations, sir!
Your brand new video game is here.
Wow, thanks. I've been dying for one of these.
Where's the microtransactions?
What?
Are you an idiot? Don't tell me you forgot the microtransactions.
You didn't order any.
How do you expect me to make money off this game without the microtransactions? Don't you ever once...
Você acha que eu sou mau, irmão? Não.
Stop it. Microtransactions are any virtual transaction you make inside a video game that costs real money. In Take-Two's NBA 2K, you can purchase virtual currencies for various prices. Buying the Battle Pass in Fortnite each season, or approximately every 3 to 6 months, grants you new skins as well as the ability to purchase its own virtual currency, V-Bucks. The highest-selling console game of all time, GTA 5, allows gamers of GTA Online to purchase a GTA Plus membership for $5.99 a month.
Prior to, say, 2012, you're looking at 98% or more of content spending being done physically. That all began to change when people started to get more connected, and that allowed publishers to do new and different things beyond just selling a disc, including, not just digital downloads, but also things like subscription services.
In 1971, the video game market was only the computer space arcade game and took in $1 billion in revenue. Fast forward to today, and the market's worth $183 billion with various platforms and thousands of games. Mobile gaming has played a massive part in the expansion of the industry.
What's driven the growth of the gaming market has been the growth of smartphones. Now in 2023, you've got 80% of the world's population using a smartphone. So, we just have, 6 billion plus people with a device that is capable of playing, some kind of game on it. So we're just able to reach so many more people with games today than back in 2007
The live service models within these mobile games are the cash cows, and now the industry leaders want to bring more and more of that model to console and PC gaming. Live services refers to game publishers' work to continuously provide new content throughout the game's lifecycle, which popular titles like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and League of Legends have.
80-year-old white men who are worth billions are probably not playing mobile games, but their grandkids are. And when their grandkids are billionaires, they'll still be playing mobile games.
And certain executives are banking on it. Take-Two Interactive President and CEO Carl Slatoff and Strauss Zelnick were paid in total $72 million in 2022 after revising their compensation packages to include for bonuses for hitting microtransaction goals. The microtransaction trend isn't going anywhere, as Electronic Arts brought in $5.6 billion in its latest earning results, highlighting the resilience of this evergreen business model.
Incorporating spend opportunities in paid games offends the user because they're like, I already paid $70 for the game, why do you want to charge me more?
This frustration and backlash to in-game purchases is nothing new. It brought controversy in Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion with the infamous horse armor for $2 back in 2006, and it still is today.
Traditional gamers would say, I want to buy a great game in order to play that game. I don't want to feel like I'm being nickel and dimed, along the way.
After negative feedback before Electronic Arts' release of Star Wars Battlefront 2 in 2017, the company decided against its own iteration of in-game purchases, which many labeled as pay-to-win.
Gamers who buy games have this code, which is kind of not very well thought through, but that they hate pay-to-win.
The Battlefront 2 release was also marred by loot boxes, which are packages of content gamers can buy to enhance their experience via costumes or playable characters. Loot boxes weren't just an issue for gamers. Hawaii's legislature wrote a bill to ban them from video games in the state. Whole countries have altogether banned loot boxes. They believe the loot box has too many ties to gambling.
It's the chance factor. So they have to very clearly state the odds of getting something good, which is generally between 1% and 2%. So in other words, something that costs $1, but you have a 1% chance of getting it, you'll spend $100 to get it. That you got to do 100 draws. You might get lucky and spend 20 and get lucky, but you got to spend.
There are recent games that have bucked the wave of in-game purchases, mainly console games with a focus on playing a specific role, like IGN's 2023 Game of the Year winner, Baldur's Gate, and PlayStation's blockbuster Spider-Man series. Several of IGN's Game of the Year winners do not have aspects of in-game purchasing outside of downloadable content available for users to buy. However,
you take a single-player game and make it into a multiplayer game. People will spend.
the backlash towards in-game purchases isn't isolated to just gamers on Reddit. In the UK, Parliament published a response to a call for evidence in July 2022 detailing exactly how game companies can protect children and adults. Those rules include things like loot boxes should be unavailable to children unless they're enabled by a parent or guardian, and all players should be aware of spending controls to support safe and responsible gambling. The game industry's response created the UK Interactive Entertainment to enhance player protections in line with the government's response.
Showing what the odds are to get the items that you really want, is a really good one. So we still see those mechanics being used quite a bit across the video game industry, and there's just a lot more transparency around it. And of course, very specific markets have outlawed very specific forms of the loot boxes. So I think the regulations are actually in a pretty good place right now.
Several countries have passed laws with varying degrees of regulation. For example, Italy, South Korea, and the Netherlands require probability disclosures, while an outright ban against loot boxes exists in Belgium. As a result, gaming companies have modified their transaction model over time.
The industry has really moved to more of a what they call a battle pass system or some kind of packaging of seasonal content. And that's found a lot more in terms of a warm response than the early days of the loot box.
Battle passes are a monetization approach that give gamers the chance to earn skins they normally wouldn't be able to unlock, but can via real-world payments. Fortnite and Call of Duty Warzone excel here. However, these live service games with battle passes require ongoing maintenance, which requires labor and is not cheap to produce. At least one major game publisher told UK regulators in 2023 that a single game in a major franchise cost them more than $1 billion to release, including development and marketing expenses. Microtransactions and subscriptions are a way for video game companies to recoup those staggering development costs.
Some of the biggest challenges now, I think, is the cost of development is increasing. So if you're making a large world, a large open world, and you fill that with very detailed characters, and you want to have the best performance capture in there, that takes a lot of skilled workers. Or if you're developing a game, a live game, and you want to update that every day or every week, that again takes a lot of skilled workers.
Games like Fortnite and EA's Ultimate Team require maintenance throughout the course of playing through live services, which are frequent content updates throughout the game's lifecycle. EA's live services brought in a record $1.71 billion in a quarter ending January 30th, but they're costly to manage, and not all studios are able to bring the live service offerings they had initially planned, like PlayStation, but have still found success with certain games, like Helldivers 2.
We're really talking about a live service, a living, breathing game that continues for years and years. Grand Theft Auto 5 launched in 2013. It's still one of the most played games 11 years later, and in 2025, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to come out and be the biggest entertainment launch in history.
The next development to shift the financial footing in gaming is likely to be the shift from owning a copy of the game to being able to use the game through cloud services.
Eventually, someday, we make it to the point where cloud-enabled devices will provide a good enough experience where people are willing to transition over to cloud-based gaming on a more full-time basis. And when that happens, when you don't have the upfront need of a device, then you might see more and more games dropping the premium upfront in order to really expand the appeal of the game.
A inteligência artificial chegou.
Really not very price sensitive at that.
The man himself, the current CEO of Unity. Here we go.
The second thing, and this is a point that I think might be lost on many, is a big and substantial portion of digital revenues are microtransactions. When you are 6 hours into playing Battlefield and you run out of ammo in your clip, and we ask you for $1 to reload, you're really not very price sensitive at that point in time. And for what it's worth, the cogs.
And you can hear, bro, you can hear a guy from the accounting department laughing in the background. Listen.
Point in time. And for what it's worth, the cogs on the clip really low. And so essentially what ends up happening, and the reason the play first, pay later model works so nicely, is the consumer gets engaged in a property. They might spend 10, 20, 30, 50 hours on the game. And then when they're deep into the game, they're well invested in it. We're not gouging, but we're charging. And at that point in time, the commitment can be pretty high. As a personal anecdote, I spent about $5,000 calendar year to date on doing just this thing, this type of thing on our products and others. I can readily attest to how well it works. But it's a great model, and I think it represents a substantially better future for the industry.
There it is. This is the guy that did it. So you're wondering what happened? He did. Counter-Strike co-creator on player complaints.
Another thing that we got a lot of feedback.
It is important to consider the future of the industry and how bad the situation could get if it is not regulated properly.